right, defensive masterclass here, a requested video. So for those of you who have any questions or want to learn something, feel free to leave it in the comments like what we are doing here. I received a comment asking for explanations on defense. He had some particular questions about defending inside the box, but I can answer those with defensive principles that will help you overall, right? You see there my record, 24th in the world right now, Premier Division, and I had to improve over time, and a big way that I improved to help me get to where I'm at is implementing these defensive principles I'm going to go over. That will help you all over the field defensively, right? So before we get into that, I wanted to put a disclaimer in. I largely use a 5-back, which I broke down in a previous formation video, 5-2-3, but I also use variations of 4-3-3, and currently the 4-4-1-1 is my secondary formation. I did some breakdowns on those as well. I'm about to do another one, the 4-2-4, so the point is I still do use 4-backs, but a vast majority of the time I'm using the 5-2-3. That's what helped me get to where I'm at. But I don't want you to think that just because you implement a 5-back, whether it's a 5-2-3 or any other one, that you are automatically going to be better at defense or that you're automatically going to let up less goals, because you won't at all if you don't implement these principles, right? So whether it's a 5-back or a 4-back, you need to implement these principles. Even with that big 5-back wall that looks so intimidating, if you're not doing what I'm about to talk about, they'll still get the same scoring opportunities. They'll still move the ball around you or through you and get crosses the whole nine. So I just wanted to make that clear. You're going to see the 5-back, but don't think that that's the answer. It's the principles that I'm going to talk about. Why I use the 5-back, by the way, and you'll see here the team that I use and kind of how the 5-2-3 is the formation that you'll see in the clips, essentially. But with that being said, I use the 5-back because of the meta right now, right? That long switch across, you have to pressure that right away with the wingback. And with 4 backs, and you taking one to pressure, that long switch, you just have 3 defenders that leaves a long hole, and you're pretty exposed if they slip your pressure and either cross it to the other side or play it in the middle. With 5 backs, you can send one defender out to pressure, and you still have 4 backs, right? So it's simply just more coverage. That's why I'm using the 5-back, because in this formation with the 5-2-3, nothing was sacrificed in my attack. It just gave me that extra defender to help with the meta right now with that long switch, pressuring the finesse shots, things like that. But you'll see here right away from my first clip, if you do not press the right way, you will still get scored on. So for the last time, I repeat, don't just think you can put in a 5-back system and you're going to improve on defense. It's the principles that I'm going to talk about that are going to help you improve on defense. So right off the bat, you see here, I'm pressing the ball. Okay, I'm trying not to give, it's off the kickoff. I'm trying not to give my opponent any time to think, because if you give your opponent any time to think, especially as you move up the ranks and you play better and better players, you give them time to think, they're going to find an open pass and eventually find a scoring opportunity. So I'm pressing the ball. I'm not diving in, but I'm closing them down, right? And as I'm closing them down, I'm using R1, the AI defensive assistance, right? You see here, everything's fine so far, but I'm about to make a mistake, and it's about a half-second mistake that ends up costing me. I'm using my CMs, pressing, right? As soon as this ball is played in to a striker, this is when I need to switch to the center back. I was a half a second too late, and I still, even being late, would have won the ball. But the problem is my opponent, high-level opponent, does a shot fake, and he ends up scoring, pulling one back. Now I'm up 2-1 still, but I gave up a goal I otherwise wouldn't have if I would have switched a half a second later. Remember, that clip was slowed down. But I'm controlling my center mids, pressing. Once that ball goes into the striker, I should have immediately switched to Van de Ven and stepped on that striker. I would have stole the ball, played it up the field, and been on my way. Instead, I give up a goal. So you have to pressure, right? The main thing, you're pressing up the field. Once you get into a good area where you're blocking the dribble/passing lane, you call in the R1 AI assistance, right? And when the player is moving, right, because they're not just going to be in one spot, you're constantly switching players and then constantly calling different AI assisted defenders, right? It's not just controlling one player and holding down R1. You have a purpose. You're utilizing whichever player you need to, constantly switching. You might even switch all the way across the field and move your defender into an area to block the long switch. You might switch to a couple defenders and just tweak their positioning a little, and then get into an area where you're controlling the player, you press R1, and now you try to force your opponent into a mistake. That's the name of the game. And you want to stay on your center mids, right, until the ball goes into a striker or winger that is near your defender. Then, as you've seen there, you switch to the center back, you commit to the tackle, you win the ball. But you don't dive in. You make sure that you're going to win the tackle, right? If for some reason it's your last defender that your opponent gets to, you can't just go in for the tackle. They'll dribble right around you. You're pressing, not giving them time to think. They eventually feel like they have nowhere to go. They make a pass. Then, boom, you switch to the player, whoever's closest, and that's when you can commit to the tackle when they kind of make that force pass. You'll see it here. Watch. I got him forced into a bad situation. He tries to play the ball into a striker. My center back gets it because I had my player chasing him down with the AI-assisted defender, and he knew he had nowhere to go. Pretty soon, either me or the AI defender were going to get the ball. Tries to force the ball into a striker. My center back gets it, right? All the while, I didn't have to touch my center back until the very end. Here, I wanted to include this mistake because it's an easy one to make. When your opponent goes for those lob balls or through balls or whatever, it's in the air and your center backs are going to win it, make sure that you are going to be able to head it to your goalie. Sometimes they'll just play a little dinker, especially if you're way far out. If you're close to the goalie, it's fine. And they have a pretty good distance, but for some reason, sometimes they'll just put a little dinker header and the opponent's forward will run right in on a breakaway. There, because that was happening, I tried to settle it, and it went off my defender's chest to Mbappe. He scored on me on that previous clip. You can rewind and watch it. What I should have done there, if I'm not sure that the header is going to go to my goalie, what you should do is full power O, which is a clearance, would be a clearance, and just point to either sideline. Whichever sideline you want, fully power O, hold your left analog to the sideline and just get it out of danger. You'd rather clear to the heavens than give your opponent an easy goal that they didn't earn, right? So as I let this game play out, you're going to see both offense and defense. You're going to see an opponent that fully presses, and you're going to see me make mistakes offensively, panic passing, right? Now, I want to talk about that as far as a defensive principle, because let's say you just win the ball back from your opponent. You did all that work, you won the ball back. A lot of players will end up winning the ball, and then they'll, for some reason, just rush a pass. Like you'll see here as he's putting me under pressure, right? He's probably pretty mad. He's getting outplayed. Even though it's tied, I beat this guy quite often. Whatever reason, he's just maybe trying something new. But he's pressing me, and he pushed me into a few mistakes because he's pressing me. Now, defensively, when you win the ball back, for some reason, players will panic. Almost like they're being pressed, and they'll do the same sort of thing you've seen a couple times from me. They'll kick the ball right back to the opponent, okay? What you need to do once you win the ball is stay calm. Don't pass it right away. Unless you absolutely have to, or if you're being pressed right away and you feel like you have to pass, it's better just to clear it, because at least if you're going to give it back to the opponent, give it to them way upfield. If not, if you win the ball and you have a little bit of space, make sure that you're going to be able to connect the pass you make. If you don't see a passing lane immediately, you have a little bit of space, dribble out of that bad situation until you see a pass you can connect, right? Do not just win the ball back, quickly press X, boom, you kick it right into an opponent, and he gets a scoring chance and maybe scores a goal that he didn't earn, okay? So, as we finish watching this and you see some of the way I defend live, you end up seeing me score the game winner here too. I want to go quickly over the principles. You can rewind the video too, watch some of the clips, go over some of the things I said again if you want to. But first, pressure. You do not want to give your opponent time to think in this game, time to make decisions on the ball, because they will keep connecting pass after pass until they finally make that pass that turns into a goal or goal scoring chance, right? So you got to put pressure on the ball. Depending on where you start pressure, that's up to you. Choosing where to start pressure, rather, that's up to you. I start pressure all the way up the field, right? Especially as you move up and play better and better players. I try to force them into a mistake as soon as possible because the closer they get to my goal, the better chance it is that they're going to make that killer pass and get a scoring opportunity. So if I don't win the ball at the field, so be it. I'm not pressing with my defenders. I'm pressing with my players that are further up. Then as I get closer to the defensive side, I'm still controlling my center mids or center defensive mids, whatever formation you use. Do not touch your defenders to manually move around outside of slightly tweaking their position. Like maybe you pick the far side wing back and push them further wide to prepare for that long switch. Maybe you tweak a center back just slightly one direction just in case an opponent goes for a ground through ball, or push them slightly back to block in case an opponent goes for over the top through ball. But for the most part, you want to keep on your midfielders until that ball goes into a striker or winger that's immediately threatening your goal or immediately near your defenders. Then, as that pass is coming in, you can't switch late. That's when you will switch to your defender, right? And if you can commit to the tackle, commit. If not, make sure you're in an area where you're blocking the dribble or blocking the area where they can take a touch and shoot. And then you want to pull in AI any and every time that it's possible. You do not just want to hold R1 down on defense and hope that you win the ball, because you'll have a player running all over the place, out of position. It will actually make it harder to defend for you because the opponent will have a hole somewhere. So you're not just holding R1, you're doing it with a purpose. You're manually switching until you're on a defender or a center mid or whoever. And then, you see there, I did it. You pull whichever player is going to help you. You pull them up with R1. And that way, you're covering a passing lane or a dribbling lane that AI is putting pressure from another angle, right? And then they'll either dribble right into you, pass right into you, whatever the case is, you can win the ball back, okay? So you want to constantly be player switching, right? Constantly be putting pressure, and use the AI assistance with R1, but with a purpose. Now go implement those, see how much it helps you, and until the next time, have a good one. Thank you.